Hi guys, how are you all today? Welcome to Chaos Central. um, so sorry for last week. We had a little bit of a disaster in the house. I've got a hole in my office room, so um, company was not our friend. Anyhow, we're back and ready to rock and roll with some software today. We are going to play in Canvas Workspace and take that file. You could use it either for heat transfer vinyl, or we can take that over into PE-Design and convert it into embroidery. So I don't know why, but I'm still on the USA trick because it is 4th of July weekend, right? So we may as well get a little patriotic while we're doing it. So hi guys, thanks for telling me that you're here, that you can hear me, and that where you're from. So good to see you guys here. Hi Marion, hi Terry, hi Shirley, hi Karen, hi Joanne, or excuse me, Margaret, not Joanne. Hey. Hi, Robin. Hi, Pat. Hi, Lori. I have got an itch that won't stop. Anyhow, so shall we get started? Once again, like I said, we're going to kind of do a patriotic theme today, but you could do this with anything. We're going to play with trims that are in Canvas Workspace. Could we do this in PE-Design? Yes, but it takes a bit more work. So I figure let's take you the easy route and then I can show you the harder route, but I think you'll find that you like this. So thanks for joining today and let's get started. If you have questions, as always, please tell me that you need some assistance and I will stop and pause and go forth. All right, so let's start in Canvas Workspace here. We're going to start with text as usual, or not as usual, but today text. And I'm just going to type in USA. I used Baja 95 as my font, and you can play with whichever one you want, but this is the one I'm going to go with today. And just so that we can see what's going on, I am going to fill this with color. It doesn't really matter, but it will help you along the way to know what you've got going on. Oh, yeah. You know, I've got a friend that lives in the Portland area, and she doesn't have air conditioner, bless her heart. And I don't know if you do or not, Sandra, but y'all are miserable out there. It is crazy. I'm feeling for you. We're in the 90s and we're not happy about that. So we've got our text here on the screen, and I am going to bring in some trims. So in your shapes menu, the second tool down is trims. You can pick any one that you want. There are quite a few in here that you can play with, but I thought the chevron might be kind of fun to play with. And I basically took it and smushed it down. That's the extent of the play that I did with this. I took it and smushed it down to where it was a little bit smaller and laid it down on top of my text. So I'm going to grab the color and color that one in. Let's make it blue. Oops, that's purple blue. Just so you can see that it's a different color, it's a different item. That way we know what we've got going on. Let's duplicate that. And let's duplicate it one more time. Now I'm going to make my text a little bit bigger just so that when I spread these chevrons out, they divide where I want them to go. So I've got my chevrons here, right? They're duplicated. Let's align them to where they're in the middle first. So go to your properties menu or your edit menu here, and let's center align those. Now, down here you have this button called Distribute. I don't know if y'all have played with this one or not, but this is a pretty slick little tool, and we do not have this in PE-Design. Vertical Distribute will distribute those items evenly. So if we increase that number and distribute them further, so as you can see how they're distributing them along the amount that you have listed. And that's how you get them to go line up where you want them to go. Then I'm going to take them and move them down just a hair's breadth. There we go. So I'm happy with that one. Now, what we're going to do so that we have a full USA before we ever start this, we're going to copy this. The USA, I've got it selected, so I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it over here and move it out of the way just so we have it. We can hide it and get it out of our way if we want to, but we're just going to move it over to the side. Right now, it's just there for us to look at. We are going to select everything that we have on our screen, and we are going to choose the divide button, this button right here. It's in your edit menu under process overlap shapes. We're going to choose divide. And what that's going to do, if you notice, it divides all of my little chevrons up. So we can come and get rid of any that are not part of our letter. So I'm just selecting these and deleting them. And that's really all we're doing here is we're just selecting and deleting. And we're going to do the same thing in that little bitty spot right there. All right. So now we've got our USA, we've got our chevrons. Let's go color these in a little bit for ourselves so we can see what we've got going on. That it'll make it a little bit easier on us if we know what we've got, what's what. And you can kind of tell that these are chevrons just by looking at the shape in the window. And as you click on them, it's going to select those. And like I said, I'm just kind of looking at the shape to see what looks like a chevron. I may miss one or two, but we can always come back and grab more. I think that's got them all. We'll see. So let me come and click on my properties menu, and we're going to change those from blue back to red and see what we did. Oops. I missed one and added one that's not. So let's come and change that back to blue. And I actually missed two. We're going to grab that one, hold our control key down and grab that second one, and we're going to change it to red. So now we've got our chevrons and our USA. And if you want to get, yes, control key allows you to select multiples. And if you want to select this entire row across the center here, we can change that color to white. So now you've really got a patriotic thing going on. So control key lets you select multiples along the way. Okay, so let's go to our layers menu. And let's divide these up so that we know that our blues are in one spot, our reds are in one spot, and our whites are in one spot. So to grab multiples, I'm going to come and grab all of my reds here. I'm going to hold my control key down and select them as I go up. And then let go of the control key, click on the last one that is selected, and drag them all up behind the first red. Okay? So let's scroll back down and let's do the same for our whites. That may be my last white right there. Yes, it is. So let's just take that one off. So I held my control key down to take that one off. So now my whites are in the same spot, and I'm going to move my blue down. All right. So let's grab all of our whites. I held my shift key down. I clicked on the first one and the last one. We are going to right mouse click there and choose group to group those as one unit. That way, when we want to hide them, we can hide them all at the same time. I'm going to grab the first one and the last one of the red and right mouse click and choose group. We are going to do the same thing for these blues. First one, last one, right mouse click and group. Control G will also group. There is not a sort by color function here in CanvasWorkspace, Marion. Good question, though. That's why I sorted them myself. Okay, so here's the dilemma. I can send this all to PE-Design at one time, but the challenge is when you get there, it's all the same color, and it's challenging to get it the way you want it to look. So what I've figured out is, let's first of all send our base letter, which would be the USA. So we're going to hide our red and we're going to hide our white. And I'm going to hide this last little piece of red because it's the last thing that we need. That's going to be our outline. We're going to export this FCM. So go up to the File pull-down menu. And if you were planning on doing this with heat transfer vinyl or adhesive vinyl, you could do that as well. Remember, let me turn those back on. If you were doing heat transfer vinyl or adhesive vinyl with this, then you would want to select it all and go to your edit menu and then flip it. and then hide your parts to send them separately. We're not doing heat transfer vinyl today. We're going to turn this into embroidery, so we're leaving it the way it is. And I'm going to turn those back off. Okay, so now we're going to go up to choose File and Export Transfer FCM File. And it's telling me anything that's hidden will not be exported. And that's exactly what we want it to do. So we're going to say OK. And we're going to choose Export FCM File. And we will call this USA Blue 1. All right. So now we want to hide our blue and turn on either our white or our red. Let's go ahead and go with red because it's the next largest area. Go up to the File pull-down menu. Export Transfer FCM. Once again, it's telling me if it's hidden, it's not going to be exported. That is what I want. So we are going to say Export FCM File. We're going to say USA Trims Red 2. And then we're going to hide our reds and unhide our whites and export those. USA Trims White. Oh, I don't want to say, I want to say white 2 so that we know we're doing the right one. Okay, so I'm going to hide that. And now we're going to come down here to our red USA text and turn it back on and come over and move it back into the window. And we're going to export that. File, Export Transfer FCM File. OK. USA Trims Whole. So the complete item there. All right, so now we're ready to begin. Let me go back here and see if I have any questions. So yeah, Marion, no color sort in here. That is a embroidery function. They don't tend to have you color sort in here. Yes, you can use Canvas even though you don't have a Brother Scan and Cut machine. It is a free program. I am working on the desktop version instead of the online version. The desktop version, one of the main differences is it allows you to work in layers. Other differences are if you have the vinyl kit that came out last year, the vinyl auto blade kit. The tiling function that's in the vinyl auto blade is here on the desktop version. So the other difference is in the desktop version, you can either choose cutting or drawing. In the online version, you can choose something to cut and draw or cut only, draw only. So, I mean, they both have the paper piercing if you have that kit and the other tools. But in the online version, you can tell it that you want it to cut and draw at the same, that it can do either operation. You cannot do that in the desktop version. I've asked for that, but so far we haven't gotten it. Okay, so now let's go over to PE-Design and have some fun. I am working in version 11. This should work in version 10 as well. So if you go up here to the top, you should see a Scan and Cut tab. That's where we're going to locate things. We're going to choose Import because we're bringing it in from CanvasWorkspace. Now, I have selected a large hoop. Once I've got everything done, if I need to resize it, I can. But I want a bigger hoop because my mat is 12 inches and I had that pretty big, that file was almost taking the entire CanvasWorkspace page. So I knew I needed a big page. Click Import. And we want USA Trims Blue 1, wherever that is. There we go. So I'm going to select it. And you can click Import or double click on it and it'll be there. So we can just move this over to the side because we're going to use this again in a minute. Go up to your Shapes tab. Change it from Not Sewn to a Fill Stitch. It's selected red. If you wanted blue instead, you could do blue instead, but right now it's got red. I am going to turn off the outline, so I'm going to change it from sewn to not sewn. So now we have our USA. That's our first piece. Since I left this up, we can go USA Trims Red 2 and import that. Now, what happens is it imports it to the center of the window. So this one's going to have to be moved down. And what we can do is just come over here and click on it. Use the arrow keys on your keyboard, and it'll just move it down. I went too far, so I'm going to move it back up a little bit. There we go. Go back to the Shapes tab, change it from not sewn to a fill stitch. Turn off that running stitch and change the color. We'll change this one to blue. And that's perfect, right? So now we want our white 2. We're going to double tap that or click it and click import. Either one. As I said, it goes to the center of the window. So it does need to be moved down, which means I need to come click first. Oop, hit the wrong one. Let's click on this guy. There we go. So arrow keys on your keyboard will move it down and keep it in position. And that's all I'm doing here is using the arrow and tapping it. All right, so now we're going to go to Shapes, change it from not sewn to fill stitch. Turn off the fill stitch and change it to not sewn. Excuse me, the outline. And let's change this to white. So now you've got your USA, the whole thing. If you want an outline around it, that's why I did USA Trims Whole. Let's double tap that one. Notice how it snugs up right against the outline of that. Let's change it to a zigzag stitch. And let's pick a color that we want. You can choose red or blue, whatever you like. I'm going to change it to red so that it matches my fill area. And your design is done and ready to go. If you want to resize it, grab it all and pull it in from the corners. You can either pull it in or you can take it out. It automatically recalculates the stitches. You don't have to worry about that. Now, one thing that I would suggest is that right now, everything on this design page is going at a 45-degree angle. That is not optimal when stitching, and it turns into a flat design and things can kind of get skewed. So I suggest that you come in and grab your color segments, and let's say we want to change this one from 45 degrees to the opposite, which would be like 135. Somewhere around there. Or you can make that a different angle. You pick. And let's make this one a different angle. So let's say we wanted this one to go, I tend to tell you not to do 90 or 0. And the reason I tell you that is because if you do 90 and 0, that's the direction generally that fabric is stitches in. So you want to kind of try to avoid that. Just vary your angles there a little bit, guys. Okay. And now your design is ready. You'll notice that I do have undersewing on mine, that it automatically applied based on the recipe that I have selected. But one of the nice things about PE-Design 11 is if you come in here and you go up to the File pull-down menu and you choose Fabric Selector, you can change your fabric and it will, if you've got this check mark down here, automatically convert all sewing attributes. Let's see if I can speak today. For outline data and text to data in the current design page, you can say OK, and it will automatically apply whatever that fabric recipe is. So if we select our design, you can see it still has that as the undersewing, and the density is at dense, and the undersewing density is dense, and the density is at 4.5. So those are some things that you can do. Now, if you really want to have a little bit more fun, you can come click your USA here. We're going to go into the deep end of the water here for a minute. There's a button called Gradation. If you click that and you click Pattern, you can actually blend and have a second color come in. So let's say you wanted it to have blue and red as your color there. Let's turn off realistic view so you can actually, let me change something. Let's just change our view. I want you to be able to see this, so I'm going to change my thread thread settings down a little bit to thinner so that you can see what happens. It gives you a gradated effect. So it blends two colors in together. I took it too far. Let's go up one more and just leave it there. Now, gradation is a unique little item. We can come grab all of them again, and you'll notice that it has sorted it out red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, which is not optimal, but that's what it's done. And I've got one more piece here right there. Let's come back into our sewing attribute. It's not going to give me them all. Bummer. It's going to make me do them one at a time. So if you come and grab one, you can play with a gradation pattern, or you could do that before you're done. It's just a little trick that you can play with and have fun with. I'm going to undo it and undo again to where we're back. So here we are. We're back at our beginning. If we choose, put a check mark next to gradation, choose pattern, and let's say we blend. This time I'm going to blend it with a different color just so you all can see, so that it doesn't mix with my blue. There are different patterns that you can select from. As you play over here, you'll notice how these levers change a little bit. You can also change them yourself. You can change the direction of the stitch, and you can change the density. Click OK, and you'll notice how it blends those colors together. The top color is the one that's going to show the most. If you do gradation, I generally tell you to take off your undersewing. It will do a much better job. And sometimes if you switch it to that one, basically down here, the stitch type, you'll notice how it blends a little bit differently. So that can change the way your gradation looks. All right. Any questions? Questions, guys? No? I'm glad you think that's awesome. Gradation is fun to play with. It's great for when you're trying to do a sunset effect. I don't know that I would necessarily do it with this particular USA, but you could certainly do it if you wanted to try it to see what it does. So let's talk about how, if I did not work with CanvasWorkspace, how this could have been done. Much more challenging, but there are some techniques in there that you may find helpful that you may use in another thing. If it were me, I would use the two programs together just simply because it's much easier to do. I have the distribute there. I have that divide to where I can get rid of all the parts that I don't want, and I can hide the layers. But it can be done here in PE-Design as well. It's just a little bit more, a lot more steps actually. So let's look and see what we've got. All right, guys, so we're going to select everything and delete it and go into our text tool, grab the text, and I've got the same true type font selected here just so you all can see that we're doing apples to apples. Let's make it bigger. And there we go. That's pretty good. I'm going to go with that one. Now, for this one, in order to make the remove overlaps work, we need to go up to our text tab and choose convert to outline. That is the first, and it is a must. So that converts that to an outline. I'm going to copy this and paste it and move it over to the side. Just like we did before, I want to be able to have this as my outline, and I don't want to have to worry about trying to figure out the exact size later on or trying to paste something back together that I've divided. All right, let's go to our home tab. There are not chevrons to pick from here. So I could bring the chevrons in over from CanvasWorkspace with an FCM file, or I can make my own. So today, let's make our own. We're going to grab the Shapes tool and grab the Rectangle Drawing tool and just draw us a small rectangle going across here. Okay, let's turn off gradation so that we don't have that going on, because we don't need gradation. Now, I'm going to play a trick here. You can either put on a grid or you can make yourself marks. I'm just going to make myself some marks. About every 10 millimeters on my page ruler, I'm going to come in here and make I guess I'm zoomed in more this time. So let me zoom out. Nope. What did I do differently? I have no clue. All right, let's go back to our select tool and let's put them on the major marks. Aha, that's what I did differently. There we go. So let's make this, move it over to where it would be on another major mark. There we go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and grab my select tool, my select point tool. And I'm going to click on the top of that line and the bottom of it. And you could add more if you want. I'm going to probably smush this in after I'm done. I just want you to get the idea of how you could make your own chevron, since we do not have that in the software. Okay, so now I'm going to grab those two dots by drawing around them there and just take them up. We'll take them up to the top of the page. Leave these two down, grab these two. Now, if you want to cheat, you can hold your control key down and drag them around those two as well, and then drag them around the last two. Then grab the last set that you did, take it up to the top, and they all should move at the same time. How did I get one extra there? I don't know. We'll delete that guy. So now you've basically got a chevron. My chevron ends at the top, but that's okay. No big deal. I'm going to shrink it in to where it's smaller and take it and make it bigger. Okay. So now we've got our chevron. I'm going to take it and turn off the outline so we're not messing with an outline, and let's fatten it up. Not as fancy as the other one. So, you know, if you felt like you wanted more chevrons in there, you could come in and add more. I think we do need a little bit more. So let's put our points closer together here. We're going to add them every line on my page ruler here. Because it is going to be kind of small here. And let's go back and grab that rectangle tool and do the same thing again. Okay. So now, select point tool, put one here, put one here, 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 and you could have used a grid instead. I just tend to do this instead because I'm not a grid-oriented person. It kind of drives me nuts. I'm going to move this one over a little bit and then just put my point up there. This should be closer to the size that I need that chevron to be. All right, here we go. So now we're going to highlight those two, highlight those two. I'm holding my control key down and grabbing the ones I want. Okay, take those, move them up to the top. There you go. So now, if you shrink this one with the select tool, you have a bit more of a chevron than you did before. There we go. Let's make it a bit longer. And we're ready to go. I'm going to duplicate it. Or I can hold my control key down and my shift key down and drag it straight down. Whichever floats your boat. There is not a distribute key here. I took off my shift key. Oops, I took off both keys. There we go. There is not a distribute key here, so you kind of have to eyeball it and make it the way you want it. All right. As I said, this one is more complicated. The reason I'm showing you this is because you may use this for another technique later on in the world. Let's get rid of all these little marks on here. since I have a gazillion of them. Come on, tap. And these are just guidelines, and all you have to do is tap on them to get rid of them, if your mouse likes you. Okay, so let's zoom in and look at what we've got. What I want to do is click on my select point tool, and I've got this guy right here. So I can try remove overlaps, and that will work. So let's do that first. That way we have a little bit of an idea what we're going to do. Let's select them all here. Go up to modify overlap, remove overlap. So now you can see, if we look at our USA, you can see how it's divided it up, right? But it did not divide it like it did in Canvas Workspace. You see how these are still, our chevrons are still attached. If you want that, that's great. But if you don't, you need to know how to fix that. And we have a special tool here that is really nice to have. Select point tool, click on your line, the chevron. Click and add a point where you think you're going to split it. Right mouse click, say split at point. I'm going to add one more point right there, and right mouse click and say split at point. Now, I can come here on the first, and I can move these away, and I'll show you how to delete them here in a second. You click the select tool and delete that little line. But what we want to do is we want to connect those points that we just disconnected. So this guy right here, and your Alt key on your keyboard. Once you select that and you grab the Alt key, do you see how that little square popped up there? Put your hand, the hand over the top of it, let go of your mouse, and then let go of the Alt key, and that is now reconnected. We're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to click and add a point, and click and add a point right here. There's already an extra point right there, so if I right mouse click and split at my point, and right mouse click and split at point, this time I'm not deleting anything, because that's going to go down there. I actually will delete either this point or this point. So let's delete this one. Take this guy, hold the Alt key down on your keyboard, take it and attach it to the first point. And there is your chevron. So that one is, as I said, a bit more challenging, but it does do the same thing that you were doing before, just in a different manner. So I'm going to add my point. Let's get rid of one of these. I don't care which one. Grab this one, hold the Alt key down, drag it on top of that X, and it fills it in. And you can adjust your point then if you need to. And you would do that for all of them. So let me come over here and see if there's any questions. Oh, sorry, I left the comment up. If you have some questions, yes, you can PM me, you can message me or email me. Email is usually better than messaging, just simply because I tend to get to that faster. All right, any questions so far? That is a nice way to be able to divide sections up. So if you have things that you need to open and close, that split at point is a really nice tool. It allows you to split parts of an area and put them back together. Think outside of the box with this technique, guys. So if you wanted to do somebody's name, let's say you wanted to do a split A and put somebody's name in the center of it, that split at point would be what you would do. So let's go back and look at this so that you can kind of get the idea of what I'm talking about. This is much more intense than the other. After you've done it all, you would grab this and put it over the top of the other and turn it into your outline so that it would go over the outside edge of it, just like we did in the previous one. All right, so let's look at this a different way. So let's say you had Amanda. Oops, does help if you know how to type. I'm going to take this A and I'm going to make it really big. And let's pick a letter that we like. I don't think I want to split that one. So let me come and go up to my text tab. And let's see here. What do I like today? How about this one? All right. So the first thing that I would do is I would convert it to outline. Yeah, Judy, I like the scan and cut method better. It is easier, but just so you know how you're doing something, that's how you would do it. So I've got my A and I converted it to outline. Go to the Home tab, go to the Home tab and grab the Rectangle tool and draw yourself a rectangle across the center of it. Now, anybody can guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab it all. I'm going to say modify overlap, remove the overlap. We are removing overlap, not setting whole sewing, because it is not self-contained. So we will remove the overlap. And then you can delete the center. You can move the top part up if you want, but you need to ungroup it. So ungrouping it allows you to move your top and your bottom to separate them if you need to. And if you wanted to take more of it out, you could. You could also make this one a little bit larger proportionally, since you're taking it down. So it would make it look more the way it should. All right, so then I would grab my shape tool, my line drawing tool, hold my shift key down, click on one side, drag it over to the opposite side, and double click. I would need to turn this one on to a zigzag stitch or whatever you want it to be. And I would probably make that about a 3 or 4 millimeter zigzag, maybe a 5. Now, here's your trick. Go to your Home tab, Arrange Copy tool, Horizontal Mirror Copy tool. Drag it down where that center line, you see how that center line is there? When your bottom line is touching where you want it to go, left mouse click and your design is set. If you want to make sure those are in the center, select it all, Arrange, Center. Now your design is centered with your lines, and I would at this point group that design. Right mouse click and group, or choose Control G, and then come in and type the text for the name. I don't want a middle, I want it centered. So I would move it where I want it in the center down here, because you're not, since this is the way it is, it's not gonna center because of the way the design is, but we can put it in the center of the A that way. And your design's ready to go. If you want your line smaller, you could obviously come in, grab just the lines over here by selecting it, select patterns icon, hold the shift key down to drag it in proportionally on both sides. There you go. Okay. Email. I hate to put that on. Go ahead and private message me. I hate to put my email here on this because I'm going to get a gazillion junk emails. So if you private message me, I'll go for it. So I don't want to put my email out here. If you've got one of my books, it is in the very front of your book. If you don't, then private message me. All right, guys, questions on anything that we did today? When else could you use it? You can do it in the center of a circle. You could do it with anything. So think about that split it point, or the, what else was the other one? Remove overlaps. Both of those items allow you to play with stuff that you have that you haven't really thought about. There are tons of built-in shapes also in the software. And if you wanted to play with trims, there are some trims in your software, in your PE-Design 11, that are also in Canvas Workspace. But let's look here and go to our import menu. Outline, shapes, and borders. These are the different trims that are there. So you've got some teddy bears. Let me change my view back to normal here. So you have some teddy bears. You have bows, or bells and bows. You've got ducks. You have birds, some hearts. There's a little bit of everything in there. And you can actually make those longer. So let's say I don't want them, I want the hearts, I want 2 of them. Let's do this. Go home. You needed a bigger copy of it, arrange copy, do a vertical mirror. Come over here and overlap them slightly, left click, and there you go. If they are not merged, go modify overlap and merge them, and they are now 1 unit. Okay. Those are some fun ones to play with, especially if you're doing birth announcements or a wedding announcement. Those give you some options to play with. On the flip side of that, let's say you only wanted 2 of those hearts. Zoom in. That is where the split at point comes in handy. Let's go with 3. Let's right mouse click here and split it at point. Right mouse click on this one and split it at point. Select the first one because we wanted 3. Hold the Alt key down on your keyboard and grab that edit point and drag it on top of that square. Now, let's see what we've got. Oops, undo. I drag it on top of the other square. I'm going to move these apart. My dog is in here snoring. That is hysterical. I don't care who you are. She's quiet snorer, but she's decided it's time to snore. So now let's attach that. Now you have 3. You may want to shape that one up just a little bit, but you can always add an edit point and shape it up. Then select the other and delete it. Okay. Any questions? So yeah, go back and watch these. I mean, guys, I have done a gazillion of these since last March. And I've covered a ton of ground. Knowing what I've covered and what I haven't covered is one of my bigger challenges. What haven't I done today? Or what haven't I done this? What have I forgotten? What have I not shown you? What else could you do with what I just did? Well, there are some more arrange copy tools in there. You've got 3 hearts. Let's zoom out. What if you want to rotate? Let's rotate those a little bit. What if you want those in a circle? You have a circle copy tool. And you can say how many you want to be placed around the circle, or you can choose it by spacing. Come and draw a circle. Notice how it arranges them around the circle based on where you click. If you want more placed, increase that number. Let's say we wanted them overlapping. So I need to add more if I want them overlapping. All right, that looks pretty, let's take them down 1, maybe 15. There we go. That looks pretty good. Left mouse click and let's select them all and merge them. Now you have a frame. It can't be fit to a path, but it can be done what I just did. So you can do the arrange copy with a circle, but you can't fit it to a path. We don't have that here. You can do that in BES4, but you can't do it here. So each program has something that it does a little bit differently than the other, and fitting to a path would allow you to you could do that in BES4. So, and if you're using PE-Design 11, save it as a version 10 file and bring it into BES4, and then you can put it to whatever path that you want. She is zoned out. Okay, guys, if there are no questions, then I think I'm done for today. Oh, she woke up. I woke her up laughing at her. I'm going to give you a few more minutes. So glad you enjoyed it today, Pat. Let's think. I will see you all next Tuesday. If there's something that you would like to see, as always, email me. As long as no construction's being done on the house, I will see you next Tuesday. If construction's being done, we will not see you. So I've got some construction that has to be done at the house. So unfortunately, you all have a great rest of the week. Have a wonderful 4th of July, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.